Oh, let's bring us all in together with the correct layout. That looks professional. I was going to bring us in earlier so we could see Dan dancing. We all want to watch.
I was given one of these really classy moves. You can't dance much in a folding desk chair in front of a backdrop.
No.
Man. If I really got going, I just knocked this sucker right over.
And we're all waiting for that to happen so we can see what's behind the magical
there it
draft
is.
board.
Little wiggle there. I like it.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I mean, you can't like. Can you go wide on me?
I probably can. I don't know how to do it, but I probably can.
I was going to say, can you connect this? Come on. You got to be the.
Yeah, join you two up. I'm just the guy in the middle with the drink bottle that's bigger than my head, trying to stay healthy. This is Between Two Dans. I should do an intro so people know what they're watching. Welcome to the show. We made it to episode 2, so the first one went well enough that we're back for a second show. I am Adam King. I'm the host at Adam King 91. Joining me today again, Dan Titus from last week at Dan Titus, and Dan Besbris stepping in as our co-host at Dan Besbris, and at Old Man Squad is where you can follow the growing brand of Old Man Squad. All about the brand. Like and subscribe to this episode and to Dan's new network and everything that's going on over there. A bit of a variety show today. Not a lot of NBA content to talk about, so we're going to go a little bit personal with a couple of our topics. But we will look. I mean, first of all, Titus, I'm calling you Titus. I know that your friends call you Titus. You mentioned that on, I don't know what show you were on. You were on a show with someone. And how's life? What's been going on in the last week?
My life has transitioned from basketball to football, which has been fun. I don't know how much football. Some of the folks that I communicate with on Instagram, it seems a lot of the followers I have, the few that I have on Instagram, are from Australia. And they're like, football? Like, who plays that? Like, fantasy basketball is like literally the only thing we play. And I'm like, damn, I need to move to Australia. But yeah, so fantasy football is in full swing. So I've been pitching in there. So if you play fantasy basketball, fantasy football, do it on Yahoo. Shameless plug. But other than that, man, just been enjoying what's left of basketball, not really having much going on, man. I saw Malika Andrews got married yesterday. Congrats. Yeah, there's like nothing on the news cycle. I saw Bronny James highlight today cooking Taylor Horton Tucker, which I'm like, shit, did he just take Taylor Horton's job? Like, I feel like he should have a more prominent role in the NBA. Like, dude's 6'6" with ridiculously long arms, and I don't know. So yeah, that's how slow the news cycle is for NBA. So yeah, here we are.
I had no idea that Malika Andrews was getting married to Dave McMenamin.
Yeah.
It feels like he outkicked his coverage there. Am I wrong?
A little bit. No, actually, I actually met him. I met him about a month ago. Really cool dude. He grew up in the Philadelphia area, so we chatted briefly about like old school high school phenoms in the Philly area. So like I get it. Dude works for ESPN. Like he obviously knows his hoops. But surprisingly really cool. And yeah, I mean, I just never this is a sidebar here, but like, did you guys ever have working relationships? Like I was never able to like figure that whole dynamic out. Like I could never work with someone and then like go home and be like, oh, okay, let's be personal here. Like, nah.
No.
Yes.
Go ahead, King.
Oh,
yes. Yeah, you got a better. Yeah, your answer's better.
Yeah,
than
mine. And it was brief. I want to say it was over a year. So my wife and I, we worked in. So here we both work for the government and different departments. I left the department I was in. She recruited me to go over to her department. So we worked together, but we did very different things. So we weren't sort of on the same team, but there was a period there where she was my sort of boss, which was kind of weird. Makes complete sense. If you know anything about me and about her, she is the boss. It's not me. So yeah, I figured that was probably a year-ish. And then I went sort of a different direction and she stayed there and climbed the ranks, and now she's the boss of everyone. So it makes sense.
There you go.
But not you, Dan. You haven't.
No, not a chance. So I met my wife my junior year of college, of undergrad. I was 20 when we started dating. That is a long freaking time ago. That was January of 2004. So we've been together more than 20 years now. And I thought I was going to go into medicine, which she did ultimately go into. So like, I guess there was a path where she could have ended up as my boss, but I got done with undergrad and I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to go into sports broadcasting. And
not the place that you would expect to meet your future wife, I'm sure.
No.
Baseball play-by-play. It's not like,
oh my God,
dude,
Titus, the universe for women in minor league baseball is so awful. And it's not fair for me to say like, oh, I feel bad for it, but like the amount of objectification that happens just in natural society is already colossal. But in minor league ball, when there's like one woman to every 45, because there's like a team of 30 dudes, and then there's a front office that's probably like 9 men and 1 woman. So it's like 35-1, basically. It is terrifying being like, because I was like kind of the old man at the place. I had my wife, and I just watch all these 22-year-old minor league ball players literally just drooling on themselves at the only woman walking through the place. Like, this has to be so much fun for them. This looks great.
That sounds like a fantasy football conference.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So my wife is never my professional boss, only like Kingy, the boss of the personal life, which is fair because again, I do fantasy basketball podcasts and she's a physician, so I don't think I should be making critical decisions around here.
No.
Other than like what's in the kids' lunch, noodles or pizza. I can do that one.
Yeah, I'm doing that one at the moment. It's
in the morning over there.
All right. Anyway, let's jump into these questions. First question, and this is topical. So we'll start with let's start with mine. Why not? I'm in the middle. Do you prefer to draft on the turn or in the middle? So Dan and I just came off a mock where we both drafted on separate turns. Is there a preference? Titus, start with you. Turn or middle?
I think my preference is the end. I tend to like the 11-12 because I think you can set the trends, and I much rather have that feeling than, I got sniped. I think you always have to have a clear draft plan, and sometimes that can go awry when things fall to you that you weren't expecting, or maybe someone reached, before you were expecting someone to go. But I think I can control more of my destiny drafting at the end of the round. So I think I prefer the back end actually than the first. Although this is the year where like it'd be great to have a pick within the first four picks of the draft.
Yeah.
If you don't get it there, I'd rather have the back end. But like I don't really know if I like the middle yet.
I like the middle. And I know this year the middle is a little annoying in the first round, but I like one pick every few minutes. I hate the long stretch between picks because no one you want is getting back to you. And there's something psychologically damaging about like making your pick, your second pick after a turn and going so long and just like not even looking at the board. Because to me, that's the easiest way. It's just I just stop. I make my second pick after a turn and then I just like look away for 5 or 6 minutes. Like none of these guys is getting to me. I'm going to have to make a queue up again like 13 minutes from now or longer if these jokers don't make their picks in a decent amount of time. And it pisses me off. I like going mid-round because I can just sort of like quietly load my queue as you're going. You throw 1 or 2 guys in every couple of minutes. Sometimes they go, sometimes they don't. But you usually get one of the like 3 guys that you're looking at in the middle. So I prefer the middle. I know it's annoying this time around because you're picking between Tatum and Embiid and Halliburton and Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis. And like 2 of those guys is probably going to ruin seasons this year. And you're just like playing Russian roulette with the first round. But in general, I like the middle. And also, I mean, maybe the next board shuffling moves some of those guys apart a tiny bit. Like maybe Trae Young moves up a little and you can get Embiid a little later. I don't know. Give me middle or give me death. I did not, Adam, by the way, enjoy drafting on the turn in our mock draft. I found it extremely annoying. I got lucky that my queues, like often one or two of the guys in my queue did make it to me, but that rarely happens. Usually you get wiped out, which happened to you a bunch of times in that mock.
That did happen to me almost every pick.
What do you think?
Yeah,
meat in the Dan sandwich?
it was. I think there's pros and cons for both middle and turn. I prefer the turn, so either end in terms of building a team. I feel like it's easier to build because you can get two very quick picks. So you can sort of go, okay, I need to target steals and assists, and then I need to get a rebounds guy who hits threes or something. So you can generally build a little bit better, but as you said, your queue often gets decimated. I like the middle just in terms of it's constant. You're sort of drafting every 10 minutes or 8 minutes, whatever the timer is. And so there's a little bit more predictability, and you can sort of set your queue, get your guy, and then reset your queue, whereas that doesn't tend to happen when you're on the turn. And if, as we saw in that draft we did, I feel like drafting on the turn probably lends itself to panic picks a little bit more because you might have one guy left in your queue, but you've actually got to make 2 picks. So you draft the guy you want, and then you go, oh, I have no idea who I want now. So I think there's pros and cons to both. And that's why I do auction drafts anyway for a lot of my leagues is because I think auction drafts are fun. And maybe we'll talk about auction drafts next week. I don't know if you guys are in any leagues where you do an auction draft, but I'm
terrible.
transitioning.
Absolutely.
I just got too many old men in my leagues with me that don't want to evolve, but I feel like the way of the future is for sure auction drafting.
Did you say something about old men?
I know, yeah.
did that the bat signal? Thought I saw something. I just like drafts to go fast. That's my issue.
I feel that. But the engagement factor, you have no chance to take a playoff. I mean, unless you're nominating, like one of my strategies is to nominate the player I'm not going to draft anyway. But for the most part, man, like the engagement with your league mates and having to bid and win that psychological war or lose it sometimes, like to me, it just makes the draft experience like that much better. But I think it's always like a nice balance. Like I always have like at least one auction in my portfolio, and then probably the rest are, traditional snakes.
Yeah, I know you're right, by the way. I 100% know that you're right. I just, I was in a mock yesterday with the Menace Podmen guys, and, like, in the 9th round, at the beginning of the mock, I was like, we need to do this fast. A minute per pick is too short. My kid is coming in at some point during this mock draft. And right on cue, we were, like, 35 minutes in. My younger one came into the room and was like, Daddy, I want to poop with you. And I was like, all right, there goes the mock. So I don't know who I picked at that point. I heard it, boom, boom. I heard the countdown as my kid's like, it's coming. I'm like, okay, well, I gotta stay here. So I need snappy. I need a mock.
I agree with that. That's the issue I have with auctions, that it's going to take like 2.5 to 3 hours. And at this day and age, like we just don't got time for that. If we were in college, we ain't got shit to do. Like, all right, cool. Yeah, fine.
That's exactly.
Bro, I got a timeline I'm sticking to. The wife gave me 2 hours with no kid and chaos. Like we got to get through this.
That's why I love the doing the Yahoo public prize leagues. Like a lot of them draft at lunchtime Pacific time, and it's a minute a pick. So I'm in and out from like 12 to 1 p.m. No one even knew I was doing it. It's like an auction. It's like I gotta put this on the family calendar if that thing's happening.
Yeah.
What the hell were we talking about? I derailed us.
No. Well, we'll talk about auctions next week then, because I think there's probably a bit to discuss. But we'll go. I mean, your first question, Dan, is a draft related question as well, and that's when do you prefer to draft, early or late? So drafting now in the sort of the July, August, or do you prefer to draft in October, a week out from the start of the season? What's your preference?
I can just jump in and start answering my own question. Yeah. I go as late as humanly possible. And I feel like most people do, but then at the same time, this one jumped into the forefront of my brain because, Dan, your Yahoo board just updated, and a bunch of guys that were values 3 days ago are not anymore. By the way, the update, I think, made it a lot more accurate, which is what you said was probably going to happen. So, not as many great gems in the first 2 rounds or something like that. So if you value that part, there is an argument to draft early. My great fear is like stuff with James Harden last year. If you drafted really early, that might have even been before all of his stuff came to a head. I ended up getting a ton of value on Harden because he still hadn't been traded and drafts were happening. And I was like, this guy's about to get traded because like he's pushed it so far, they have to. And you could steal him super late. But then there's other stuff like Chris Middleton, who I will never forgive for whatever it was 2.5 years ago, where the Bucks were just like, he's almost there. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I already drafted him in 4 leagues because I drafted 7 days before the season started, and then he was out for 6 weeks, and then he was back for a day, and then he was out for another 6 weeks. So if I could do all my drafts on the very last day, I would, because I will never forgive Chris Middleton, and I will never draft earlier than 2 days before the season. I mean, that's obviously not feasible, but that's where I stand on it. But I see the argument for both sides.
Yeah, I think it's important to get an understanding of like how things were and where they are now. Like the ADP movers, like that's something I always pay attention to. I don't think you necessarily need a mock draft before you have your real draft, but you got to at least know where people are going. And the best way to do that is to draft. But if I'm actually like having my home leagues or any kind of competitive league, the league has to draft like right before the season starts. You have to have the most updated information. I mean, even this year, I think is going to be really interesting because there's a lot of marquee players that are pretty disgruntled that haven't gotten paid, that I don't know that those situations will feel themselves out by the time we actually have to draft. So to Dan's point, I think it is valuable sometimes, depending on your league and how they follow information. You could definitely, propose drafting earlier so then you can scoop up all the value later. But at the same time, I think everybody is served better with the most recent information. So draft as late as possible. And I think I was actually just on a call with some Yahoo folks on the product side and performance, and they were saying that I think an overwhelming majority of fantasy basketball leagues are drafted the week of the week before the start of the season. So unlike football, traditional American football, like you'll be drafting, sometimes months ahead, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ahead. Whereas basketball is like, no, we need to have the latest information. So I think that tracks.
Yeah, definitely tracks in what we saw like in sales at Hoopball Ethos, just like when people are buying draft guides and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. I agree. I like drafting my cash leagues, my home leagues, that sort of thing. We always draft. It's always October. Timing wise is tricky over here because the 2 weeks usually before the start of the NBA season are holidays here, school holidays. So a lot of the guys I draft with who are also old men are on holidays with their kids and they're away and that sort of thing. So we often have to bump it up to the start of October. But yeah, I prefer closer, but I certainly enjoy drafting early, and I think it's a lot easier to find value drafting now than it is in October. So there are pros and cons again to both, but yeah, I do tend to like to do it. The only issue is that when you're in so many leagues, if you draft all of them in that week before the season starts, you're basically drafting 2 leagues a day for a week. So it's a lot of drafting.
You get pretty good at it though.
You do get very good at it. And a couple of my home leagues are now auction drafts. And so, as you said, it's a 3-hour draft, but we usually make a day out of it. We start mid-morning, first beers are cracked at sort of 10 a.m., and then we're into the draft, and then we pause and we go and get lunch somewhere, and we come back and so it's a full day thing.
That's awesome.
And then our wives have to come and pick us up. So
you guys got the life, man. That is the dream day. Like that's like you should outsource that as like a draft like destination like experience there. You get the life, you get the DDs at the end of the day. You start your morning with a brew. You got food like on the menu. Like, come on, man. What else do you need?
Yeah, this is between two Dan's silent auction. Drafting Adam's home league. Get wheelbarrowed home by Adam's wife.
Yeah, she's like an Uber, but just for drunk men who have drafted in their league.
Drunk fantasy nerds.
All right, Titus, your first question: did the extended offseason impact how you're ranking veteran players? Take it away.
I don't think that I adjusted for it or accounted for it enough yet. And one player that no one really talks about, obviously Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant did have that calf injury before the Olympics started, so like he looked great. So like I don't know how I can downgrade him that much. Kawhi Leonard certainly was sent home, so there's some question marks there about where he stands. But like, what about Nikola Jokic? The dude was playing in like the Goran Dragic retirement game. He had a decent, postseason run, and in the second round, took Serbia all the way to the end for a medal. So I don't know. I don't think Jokic should be in danger of like load management. Like that's not his style. It's not what we've seen in the past, but I think it begs the question, like, what's the workload going to look like? Whereas like most times we're like worried about Luka. Like, is Luka playing ball over the summer? Like, he looks a little chubby coming into training camp. We didn't get to see him for Slovenia after a finals run, but like I actually feel like he actually might be pretty healthy going into the season. So yeah, I don't think I've accounted for it enough yet, but it's something I'm going to be monitoring as we start to hear more about, where certain teams are and players are as they approach training camp.
I think I'm guilty of using that as like my own confirmation bias. And I feel like I need to go back and be better because the players that I was already downgrading for other reasons, I just like lump that on top of them. And they're not even veterans necessarily. It's like, I was like, I'm not super high on Jason Tatum because of the finals run, because of hanging out at the Olympics. I know there wasn't a lot of playtime there, but like he was traveling and there was a lot of that involved. But like his Olympic run didn't drain him. He's young. He's been a dude who plays basically all the time. I typically downgrade players off of finals runs. So then I was like, oh, well, and he also did this other stuff in the summer. And so that's another reason. But then at the same time, I'm like, Derek White was there and I thought he was a value until a couple days ago. And I didn't bother to just like, I don't give a crap that he played in the Olympics. And like, I thought Drew Holiday finally is getting drafted late enough where he became a value instead of getting overdrafted, not even paying attention to the fact that he also was on that Olympic team. So I think I need to be better at being consistent with it. Because like Anthony Davis, I seem like, I'm talking like he doesn't have any issues. And that's a guy who's always hurt and he played extra basketball. I don't want him playing extra basketball. He finally was healthy this year because he had a full, long, juicy offseason for the first time in God knows how long. I should probably be more scared, but I don't want to be. And so the answer to the question is I should be better about being consistent. I think I've done a bad job of that so far. Basically just accounting for it in the situations where I want to and ignoring it where I don't. That's bad analysis. So, demerits to me on that one. That's right. I used "fi" on a podcast.
You did. First time ever. Look, I think for me, it's there's also that, I guess, that thought process of, well, if they play like Anthony Davis, for example, a really good one, because someone that people typically associate with injury and injury risk and how high do we draft him. The fact he played in the Olympics tells us that he is healthy. I mean, you wouldn't think that his team would let him go. Embiid, same thing. I mean, he played. I'm not saying he played well, but he played. And so these guys that played and we sort of downgrade them for the injury risk, maybe there's a case to say we go the other way. And if they played in the Olympics, they must be fully healthy and ready to go for the season. But then there are the guys that we think of like we've talked about Anthony Davis, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Drew Holiday. What about the guys on the other teams? Like Jamal Murray did not look healthy at the Olympics. And
no, he did not.
So where does our mind go with him? Is he injured coming into the season? And so, yeah, I think you could go sort of both ways, but it's typically something that we have to factor in. But which way you want to go with that? And as you said, Dan, being consistent with it, are you go, I guess you put your hat in one ring. Is it, yes, well, if they played all those extra games, we're going to downgrade them, or, well, they must be healthy, so we're just going to roll with them. And like Anthony Davis is not someone I'm afraid of drafting at all this season, where I am with Joel Embiid. So
I think Titus probably hits the nail on the head with this one, which is let's just look for big things from it. Like Kawhi Leonard sent home. That feels like not nothing. Anthony Davis playing looked good. Yeah, there were no more miles on his legs, but he looked fine. So maybe we can just kind of like ignore that type. Did anybody who in the Olympics seem to just make it through fine, ignore those, and then let's take the Jamal Murrays and the Kawhi Leonards and basically until the semis and the finals, Joel Embiid, who looked like he was being dragged up the court by like a series of marionette strings. And maybe we draw conclusions from anything that looked wrong, as opposed to like, do we consistently value everything the same and instead just say, what looked weird, let's make that part of our calculation.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I think going back to my rankings, I think the people that were impacted the most were the people that played bad or looked bad.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray has definitely suffered. Like I moved him down probably a round and a half, I think. And all the reports since coming from the playoffs haven't been positive. Like he had an awful playoff run. So I think that just might be a byproduct of that guy's not healthy. He tried to push it for the Olympics. It didn't work out. Where do we stand on that? So yeah, I think that's a great point. In just if the guys were there and they played well, probably means nothing. The guys that didn't play well, maybe we should be looking further into that and see where that kind of puts us in terms of rankings.
So you're saying, break the bank and draft Yabusele immediately.
Hey man, that was a great pickup by the Sixers. I'm just
that was a good move.
That was a good basketball move, and hopefully he can restore his NBA career.
I didn't realize he'd been gone for that long.
It didn't really seem like it, right? Like I thought he was like probably in the G League or something. Like I didn't realize that he bounced
like 3 or 4 years. I don't know, man. Everything since COVID is all one very long year.
It's still 2020, isn't it?
It's still 2020. This was like a huge thing for us out here. That we live about a block from an elementary school. And before COVID, they used to open up their playground on weekends. There was a gate that just went straight into the playground, and there's a farmer's market nearby. So a lot of kids would just get a little food and then go in there. Closed from COVID until last week. They just reopened it.
Wow.
4 years later. And my wife actually cried when she walked in that gate. She's like, it's finally over.
I missed you.
Yeah, it's not even that great of a playground. It's just, it was like an era just ended, and now we're back to like kids can just slobber on each other again. Slobber away. I figured I would get personal right before Adam starts digging into our weird questions.
We are into the weird questions. Dan's is the weirdest, so we won't do his just yet.
Who's Dan? We're all Dan.
Dan 2, Dan 3.
Well, I'm going with Dan and Titus.
Oh,
I'm going with Dan and Titus.
Not Dan King.
We'll start now. This part of the reason behind this question. So I've gone with favorite Will Ferrell movie. The reason, or part of the reason, is because after last week's show where I made just a complete debacle and said that Vince Vaughn was in Step Brothers, and then we talked about
crushed you, man.
Oh, look, it wasn't a highlight of my life. So I'm going to go with Will Ferrell, who is in Step Brothers. Do you have a favorite movie? And I don't care who takes this one away.
Oh my God. He just crushed everything after he left Saturday Night Live. I couldn't handle the amplifier all the way at 11 of Will Ferrell on SNL. So I'm going to go old school, because that to me was like when Will Ferrell went from SNL to movie Will Ferrell. And that movie was freaking awesome. Even though Luke Wilson's character is hilariously lame. Guys, this is my house. It's just every scene is him. Guys, you can't.
I think that's Luke Wilson though. Like he plays that guy like so well.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same shtick. This is my house. You can't just turn it into a supermarket. I mean, is there going to be everything that you turn his house into? I'm only picking. I don't actually think that's his best movie. I just think that's the one where my brain was like, "Oh, this guy's freaking funny." This guy's not just like full bore lunacy. Like how idiotic can he act to get a laugh? This guy has comedic range and timing. So I'll go old school just because I thought that was the turning point for him.
Okay. I thought so. My take with Will Ferrell was like outside of Anchorman, which I'll say is like my favorite movie, Anchorman 1. I thought that he's always been great as an accessory role. I don't like him as the star of movies generally. The only exceptions, Anchorman and Step Brothers. But I think John C. Reilly really carried Step Brothers to make Step Brothers what it was. Like Ferrell was funny, but like John C. Reilly's like, I find him to be way more hilarious. And that's why Talladega Nights was funny. Like, because you can't have, like, you got to have John C. Reilly there. Anchorman was hilarious. And I think that was the movie that, like, I still come back to. I'm like, all right, Will Ferrell's funny as shit. But I also agree with Dan that, like, I don't know. I was never a huge Saturday Night Live guy, but like when I did watch it, I always felt like I was like, he's just like kind of exhausting. But like the flip that he did to become like a very serious, a lot of range comedic actor. Like I thought he was awesome in Eastbound and Down. His character in that. What was his
plums. Name? Feel it in my plums.
You will sit there and you will watch. I forget what his character's name was, but either way. Anchorman, that's the vote for me.
So it's a little bit different for me, I think, in that as Dan sort of said there, the Saturday Night Live stuff, we didn't see any of that in Australia because Saturday Night Live is not something we watch here. So
that was a good decision.
When Will Ferrell
so it was like John Belushi, Eddie Murphy days, like it's probably for the best.
Yeah. No, and so. Yeah. So Will Ferrell came out of nowhere. Like the first movie that I saw him in was Night at the Roxbury.
Oh God, with Chris Kattan. Oh Lord,
yeah.
But that was
his career never survived that. I feel like
no. I mean, there was never a Mango full-length movie for Chris Kattan.
Like there was no follow-up necessary to that.
So Adam, that was basically Will Ferrell on SNL. All the time. Okay. It was so much.
Yeah, so that was my first experience with him. So and I remember liking that movie, but it came out at when I was the right age. Yeah, the head bob and the music, and it's when me and my friends, we were going out clubbing, and so we knew all that music. So, but for me,
I'm just trying to imagine you clubbing to Hathaway right now, like, oh man.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite. I do like Step Brothers. I like and the basketball link is semi-pro. Like so, I like semi-pro because of the tie-in with basketball. But probably my favorite character of his, and like you said, I do like him in a supplementary role where he's not the main character. It's from Wedding Crashers, and I can't think what his character's name is. Is it Chaz?
It's Chaz.
Yeah,
Chaz. Yeah. His character in that movie is I love that character, and I watch that movie a lot.
That is an amazing,
and that is a movie with Vince Vaughn in it. I'd say I don't know, but there's so many that I like. I've got all these movies up here in front of me, and you just scroll through, and The Campaign is a sneaky one that I really like.
Wow, that is a great sneaky one.
Zach Galifianakis.
I love that movie. That movie's hilarious.
Yeah, so there are a lot. I think you could talk for ages on Will Ferrell movies, but let's not. Let's go to the next question. And do I want to go to
Campaign? I'm so glad that you said that. I gotta go watch that again.
It's very hysterical. When he punches the baby. All right, Titus, you changed your second question. If you were commish for a day, now this is commish of the NBA. So if we were Adam Silver, what rule would you change or implement? Now, I didn't see this question until I got up this morning at 5:45 to go on the mock draft. So I'm going to let
you're on a 2-hour podcast extravaganza right now.
I am.
Your day hasn't
I'm going to let you guys take this one away while I think of my answer.
So I thought about it, and like I was thinking, like, do I want to change like the rules of the game of basketball? No, I think we got to change the entertainment aspect of the game, and I think All-Star Weekend is a dud now. And one of the ways that I would change it is for that celebrity all-star game that no one ever watches, they need to make it rock and jock like MTV in like the early 90s where they had the like 30-foot basketball rim or whatever. And then it was just like a whole experience. And like, I just remember rock and jock was like my childhood. And I just love that as like a entertaining like aspect to basketball that still like was like fun. And you had, the musicians, you had the artists, you had the celebrities and all that stuff. I thought it was a really engaging way to like bring people in that you wouldn't normally have as like your fans. I feel like the only people that really watch All-Star Weekend now are like the diehards and people that are watching the NBA on Tuesdays. And to grow the game, you need to like bring more people in. Like Travis Kelce's out here rocking Taylor Swift, and like no wonder women are watching football. Like Silver's got to do something, get creative to bring a new fan base in there.
I'm so on board with you because after All-Star weekend last year, I think I did one pod during the like 3 days of the week where there was still nothing happening. And my call was actually something that the Mariners started doing in baseball, which is just to have crap rain out of the sky. I want All-Star weekend to have, because now they do that thing. I don't know if you guys watched all the events last year because it's a lot, but like they did all the floor things,
like the graphics and like making it.
I want those floors to be like special zones. So, and this wasn't going to be my answer, but I'm just sort of building on yours right now. Where like if a player knocks down a shot when he's in one of those lit up circles, something crazy happens. So there's like a hot dog circle. Boom. Yeah. Steph hits a 36 footer from the hot dog circle. Hot dogs rain from the sky. I want there to be a cash circle. So money gets blown into the crowd. And like, there's got to be goofer ones too. Like, there's like a mystery box one, and like maybe someone in the crowd just gets nailed with a pie in the face. something like
it's like a Mario Kart like mystery.
Yes, exactly. I want maximum goofball weird. Like people would go crazy. Like you'd sell that thing out in a heartbeat if people walked in there were like, crap is gonna literally rain on my head during this game. Like presents and other like. I would watch.
Would the hot dogs have to come down on a little umbrella, or would they just drop them?
I'm just thinking of the Tom Green. Daddy, would you like some sausage?
Yeah, Daddy. Yeah.
Actually, maybe it should just be like 4 dudes up in the rafters slinging hot dogs at people, just aiming. Boom, try to nail. Like if they can hit some person in the first row, then there's a bonus prize. Yeah, that wasn't going to be my answer to the question, but that's something I really want to see.
It's a good answer. Well, I'm gonna lean into the theme of All-Star Weekend because I didn't really have an answer given the short turnaround. I'm going to go with the dunk comp because since I think it's since the Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine dunk comp, which was, I don't know when, how long ago was that? 7, 8 years? I don't know.
I don't know. I thought Gershon Yabusele played last year. So don't ask me about
it. Was 2020 and everything. It was so I think the dunk comp, they need to do something with the dunk comp because it's just become, I won't say it's become a joke, but it's become, it's not
kind of like, become a joke.
Kind of become a joke. Okay. I would like them to bring in non-NBA dunkers. So, I mean, if you're on Instagram or and you follow like Jordan Kilganon, who I follow, and some of the dunks that he's doing are unbelievable. So why not bring guys like him, some high school dunkers that are doing crazy things? Why not have a dunk comp of, I guess the issue would be that NBA players wouldn't want to be shown up by these guys that aren't basketball players.
Yeah, but screw them.
What's Mac McClung? That dude ain't.
Well, that's right.
No real minutes. They're like, yo, Mac, you're the only guy that's got an affiliation that like can still hop and like actually do this stuff. So that's why I'm like, you might as well just expand it out or go get the college dunk contest, even the G League dunk contest over the last few years before. I think they're still doing it. But some of the dunkers in the G League are crazy. Like, just bring them up. You might as well.
Oh, wait, I just thought of something else. I want jump balls to be dropped from above instead of below.
Yes.
It's idiotic that a 5'9" ref is trying to throw a jump ball over Wemby. I can't get a basketball past these dudes. Who's enforcing? Like, first of all, it's hard enough to just shoot it straight up in the air. And then also to do it fast enough to get it past a guy who's 8 feet tall with a wingspan of 900. Like, this is dumb. We have the technology to just fly a drone over and drop a jump ball. Why are we not doing
100%,
that?
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, you stole the jump ball. And then they call that what? 1 out of every 150 times? Like, it's every time.
Don't get me started on jump balls.
Or have the smallest players on the court jump the ball. That one's a little sillier, but could work.
Yeah, could work.
All right, that's all.
All right, it's time for your question, Dan Besbris.
Goody.
So this one is where we're going a little bit as personal as you want to take it, I suppose. And I have about 5 minutes, so we're going to get through this one. Quick. How long do you take to shower? Lead us away. It's your question, so.
Probably too long. I'm like 13 or 14 minutes, I think, in the shower. That's kind of a long one. I do body first, face second, and hair last. and I towel off in the shower because I do not want to get the mat and the bathroom wet. That is my shower routine. I went fast, Adam, for you.
No, that's succinct. I like it.
That's spot on. I wasn't going to say 13, 14. I was going to round up to 15 minutes. That's my like me time.
There you go.
Whether I'm doing, I don't know what the rotation might vary a little bit, but like I'm also, you got to dry off in the shower so you don't get the floor and the mat all wet. I'm at least 15 minutes, at least. Sometimes 20 probably. I waste water. My wife hates it.
Yeah, I think my answer is dependent on whether my wife is in the house. So if she's in the house, it's quicker. So at the moment, her being away, my showers are probably, she won't be watching this, it's fine. My showers are probably a little bit longer. In terms of the routine, so
I think I go the other way.
But say, why is that, Adam?
There's a bang on the door. Stop wasting water. So it's I would say 15 minutes would be a really nice shower for me. I would say probably closer to 10. But interesting, I don't dry in the shower, and I don't know whether that's because I'm 6'6" and so it's arms and legs everywhere, and so I happily step out onto the mat. And that's what the mat's for, isn't it? Isn't the idea of the mat that
it's fair
a wet person stands on it?
Yeah, but I just want it to be like 2 perfect wet footprints for me, and then I'm done. Not like, because my kids are going to bathe in that same tub. The guest bathroom here doesn't have a tub, so it's going to be flooded at some point in the night, and it's important that the mat is like mostly dry when everybody else gets to it, because the other 3 people in my family are absolutely disgusting monsters. So I have to, exactly. I got to swing way the other direction, or things get real gross. And I'm always the one hanging up the bath mat to try to give it some air to dry that sucker out. I'm just thinking, like, I know you got to go, Adam. I'm thinking about some of my roommates when I was young, and like who toweled off in and who toweled off out, and like you always want to shower before the roommate that towels off out. Because then you're like sliding across the bathroom, wet, it's getting moldy and whatnot. But again, I'm 5'8", so I don't have.
Yeah, we don't have the 6'6" problems.
No,
that's a different problem.
Yeah, it is. It's I've hit my elbows on the glass and all sorts of things. It's
I'm nowhere near anything in that shower.
No. All right. Well, yes. We'll end on that topic because that's a good one to end on. I do need to do some dad stuff, but we'll just quickly, Dan Titus, where can people find you? What's coming up? What's on the agenda for Yahoo?
More rankings, more articles, more stuff to kind of get prepped for the basketball season, and just tap in with me at Dan Titus on Twitter and all socials.
Yeah, everybody knows where I'm at. Here,
everyone knows where you are.
Subscribe to this YouTube page. I'm here.
That's right. Follow Old Man Squad. Follow Dan Besbris. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to everything Dan's trying to build. We're all trying to build. So, no, I appreciate anyone watching along, listening along. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We're on Google Podcasts. Are we on Google? Probably. I don't know. We're on Apple
Does that even exist anymore?
I don't know if that's a thing. I know we're on Apple because you showed me how to set it up. So that was was something I learned in the last couple of weeks.
As I adjust my bifocals.
Adjust the spectacles. So, no, look, thank you again, everyone, for listening. No idea who will be on the show next week. We'll figure that out during the week.
You're going to call him Dan, though. We know that.
They are going to be Dan, although I do have some special non-Dan guests coming up. So,
but didn't you say their first name becomes Dan?
It does become Dan.
Honorary Dans.
Yeah.
We'll accept it.
I think so. So, no, look, I'll let you guys go. I will go. I haven't even seen my daughter, so I hope she's awake because she's got to get to the bus. That'll do. Thank you, everyone. We will be back next week.